Hi, good day everyone. My name is Jan Eduardo M. Rason and I'm tasked to discuss to you about the following methods of personal identification. So, here we go. The personal identification into discuss is about the first, anthropometry, and the second one is the portrait parallel, and the third one is the forensic ontology, and the fourth is anthropology, and the fifth is the forensic serology, and the last is the DNA fingerprinting. What is personal identification? Personal identification is defined as a determination of individuality of a person or things. It is also process of identifying someone or something of or using scientific methods. Personal identification. Now, we're moving on our first topic. Did you know that anthropometry is a science dealing with the measurement of the human body to determine differences in an individual and has first introduced by Alphonse Bertillon in 1900s. Spread through the world in 1940 is also known as the Bertillon system. Bertillon system. Bertillon system invented by French criminologist Alphonse Bertillon in 1879 was a technique for describing individual on a basis of a catalog of physical measurement, including standing height, sitting, length of trunk and head, distance between fingertips with arm outstretched, and size of head, right ear, left foot, digits, and forearm. In addition, distinctive personal features such as color, scar, deformities were noted. The system was used to identify criminals in the later of the 19th century, but was soon displaced by the more reliable easily.
In this video, we will be discussing important considerations when conducting anthropometric measurements, as well as how and why you might use these measurements to motivate clients and track their progress. Anthropometric literally means to measure a human. Therefore, anthropometric measurements are used to assess the size, shape, and composition of the human body. We divide these measurements into two categories: body composition and body size. Body composition identifies the relative percentages of fat mass to fat-free mass. With this type of measurement, we are simply trying to identify the difference between fat mass and fat-free mass in the body. On the other hand, body size assesses the dimensions of the human body by looking at the height, weight, and circumference. This is helpful to determine a client's health and fitness status, but does not assess body composition. When beginning an exercise program, we want to take anthropometric measurements, since simply knowing a person's weight does not reveal much about their overall condition. During a weight loss program, there are going to be times when the rate or amount of weight loss slows, stops, or even reverses. However, individuals can still be losing fat and gaining lean body mass, so you'll want to be able to identify that difference. As with other assessments, taking these measurements can help to gather baseline information, assess program effectiveness, serve as a motivational tool, identify a client's health risk for excessively high or low levels of body fat, promote a client's understanding of body fat, and monitor changes in body composition. There are a variety of methods for measuring body composition, and some are more accurate than others. However, oftentimes the most accurate methods require expensive equipment and can be invasive or unpleasant to perform. Typically, the method that you will see in a gym is the skin fold measurement, which yields fairly accurate results and doesn't require a lot of time or equipment. We will now walk you through a demonstration of a skin fold measurement. Zach will be performing a skin fold measurement on Jesse using a device called a caliper. Make sure to familiarize yourself with the exact site locations as it differs for men and women. This measurement is most accurate if the client is properly hydrated and it is conducted prior to exercise. All measurements are taken on the right side of the body while the client is standing. For women, the Jackson and Pollock 3-site skin fold locations are as follows. First is the triceps. A vertical skin fold or pinch is taken on the posterior midline of the upper arm, taken halfway between the shoulder and the elbow. Make sure the pinch is maintained while the calipers are positioned perpendicular to the site and on the site location, midway between the top and the base of the fold. Pull the skin and underlying fat simultaneously and firmly away from the underlying muscle tissue. Read the dial, then slowly release the caliper trigger. The second location for females is the thigh. A vertical skin fold taken on the anterior midline of the thigh between the crease of the hip and the proximal border of the patella. The final measuring site is taken at the suprailium. This is a diagonal fold following the natural line of the iliac crest, taken immediately superior to the crest of the ilium and in line with the anterior axillary line. Body composition can be determined by adding the 3 skin fold measurements and plugging the values into the conversion tables. The 2 most common ways of assessing body size are through the body mass index chart and the waist to hip ratio measurements. Both are easy to administer and little equipment is necessary. The waist to hip ratio determines the distribution of fat on the body. We will now demonstrate how to do the waist to hip measurements. When measuring body circumference, it is important that the tape measure is even and straight, and all measurements should be made with a non-elastic yet flexible tape. Individuals should wear thin, form-fitting material that allows for accurate measurements. The tape should be snug against the skin surface but not pulled too tightly. Zach will now demonstrate how to locate and measure Jessie's waist. With the client standing, arms at the side, feet together, and abdomen relaxed, a horizontal measure is taken at the narrowest part of the torso. This is usually above the belly button and below the rib cage. To measure the hips, have the subject standing with the feet together. A horizontal measure is taken at the maximal circumference of the buttocks. Measure from the side or sagittal view, starting from the calf, and move up to the thigh. It is recommended that you take these measurements in a private setting and inform the client of what you're going to do so they feel at ease and secure. As with any assessment, you should be mindful for whom it is appropriate and any associated advantages or disadvantages. For example, clients affected by overweight or obesity might find the experience of having measurements taken to be unpleasant or even demotivating, and as a health professional, you should be considerate of that. As a health and fitness professional, it is up to you to determine the client's needs and the most appropriate assessments and the best course of action.
In the next, portrait parallel. Introduction. Portrait particle. These two French means speaking likeness. Portrait particle can be defined as a rigorous system for verbal description of physical characteristic of the subject. It is based on the Bertillon method of criminal identification by measurement of the human body, and it is still in practice today to some extent. A distinctive description of every feature of a face and head are especially valuable for investigation, especially when a set of a suspect fingerprint is not available in his file. Action. The Bertillon card included a space-form description of a prisoner, which is eyes, ears, lips, beard, hair color, skin color, ethnicity, forehead, nose, chin, general contour of head, hair growth pattern, eyebrow, eyeballs, orbit, mouth, neck, inclination of shoulder, attitude, voice, language, habits. The third is forensic odontology. So, what is forensic odontology? Forensic odontology is the application of dental knowledge to those criminal and civil law that are enforced by police agency. In a criminal justice system, forensic dentists are involved in assisting investigative agency to identify recovered human remains in addition to the identification of whole or fragmented body. Forensic dentists may also be asked to assist in determining age, race, Now, let's move on to the other one, forensic anthropology. Forensic anthropology is the application of the anatomical science of anthropology and its various subfields, including forensic archaeology and forensic anthropology in a legal setting. A forensic anthropologist can assist the identification of a deceased individual whose remains are decomposed, burned, mutilated, of otherwise unrecognizable as might happen in a plane crash. Forensic anthropologists are also instrumental in the investigation and documentation of genocide.
Forensic anthropology comes from two words. One is Latin and the other Greek. The forensic part comes from Latin and means as something pertains to the court, and criminal trials were held in the open forum in Rome, so forensic pertains to the court of Rome. The second word is Greek in origin and is split into two parts. The anthropos part means man, and the logia part means to study. So literally, forensic anthropology means the study of man for the purposes of the court. Forensic pathology is concerned with establishing a cause or manner of death, whereas forensic anthropology is about establishing the identity of the deceased. Often, this involves skeletal remains. The forensic anthropologist may assist in single cases such as this, where there is a suspicious death, or in mass fatality events where there has been either a man-made incident, for example the explosion in the Chinese chemical warehouse, an accident of nature, for example the Asian tsunami, or an act of terrorism, such as the London bombings. Forensic anthropologists are often asked to examine remains that are washed up on the beach, or perhaps found by people out walking in woodland or in parks. Also, people frequently find bones when they start digging in their garden, or when there is a building project ongoing, such as creating a drive or building a conservatory. Forensic anthropologists at Dundee take over 450 such calls every single year from police forces across the entire length of the UK. These pictures are real cases from real police forces. What do you think these images represent? Would you start a murder investigation based on either of these? This is in fact an image of a piece of driftwood, and this is a seal flipper. Forensic anthropologists will work with the police, forensic archaeologists, and other experts at the crime scene, or indeed the burial or deposition site. Forensic anthropologists have a prominent role to play, especially if the remains are what are called surface scatter and are not buried.
And now, let's move on to the forensic serology and DNA fingerprinting. Forensic serology. Forensic serology is the detection, identification, classification, and the study of various body fluids such as blood, semen, urine, breast milk, vomit, fecal matters, and perspiration, and the relationship to the crime scene. Forensic serology may also be involved in DNA profiling or DNA fingerprinting is a forensic technique in a criminal investigation comparing criminal suspect profiles to DNA evidence so as to assess the likelihood to their involvement in their crime. It also used in a percentage testing to establish immigration eligibility, and in a medical research, DNA profiling has also used to study animal and plant population in a field of zoology, botany, and agriculture.
DNA fingerprinting is a method of identification based on an individual's DNA. In traditional DNA fingerprinting, the DNA is collected from cells such as a blood sample and cut into small pieces using a restriction enzyme. This generates thousands of DNA fragments of differing sizes. The fragments are then separated on the basis of size using gel electrophoresis. The separated fragments are then transferred to a nitrocellulose or nylon filter. This is called a gel blot. The DNA fragments within the blot are permanently fixed to the filter, and the DNA strands are denatured. Radio-labeled probe molecules are then added that are complementary to sequences in the genome that contain repeat sequences. These repeat sequences tend to vary in their length among different individuals and are called variable number of tandem repeat sequences, or VNTRs. The probe molecules hybridize to DNA fragments containing the repeat sequence, and excess probe molecules are washed away. The blot is then exposed to an X-ray film. Fragments of DNA that have bound the probe appear as dark bands on the film. As seen here, the samples designated 1 and 2 have a different pattern of bands, indicating that they came from two different individuals. Traditional DNA fingerprinting has been superseded by an automated procedure in which microsatellites, which also contain variable repeat sequences, are amplified by PCR. The small amplified DNA fragments are fluorescently labeled and subjected to high-resolution gel electrophoresis. A fluorescence detector determines the amount of DNA in each amplified fragment, thereby generating a graph that depicts the pattern of fragments in a particular individual.
So, that's all our topic today. I hope you enjoy watching this video and have learned something on it. Thank you and God bless.